welcome. Thanks for joining us on this special broadcast. I'm Padmaja Joshi. The Indian Army website says artillery is that which adds dignity to what would otherwise be an ugly brawl. In the Indian context, though, you can also say artillery is that which gives us an edge in an extremely challenging condition on the battlefield. So just ahead of Gunners Day, who better to talk about the scope and the challenges before the artillery? We have with us DG Artillery himself, Lieutenant General T.K. Chawla. Thank you very much, sir, for speaking to us. In the recent past, the Indian Army has been very busy, especially in high altitude areas. How has the artillery been coping up?
First of all, Padmaja, thank you very much for inviting me on your show. Yes, the Gunners Day is around the corner, and through your channel, I wish to congratulate everybody on the 195th Gunners Day that we are celebrating. Coming specific to your question, yes, the Gunners have been at the forefront during the challenges that have come across, as you mentioned, over the last 1 year. Yes, I can take pride in saying that the Indian Army, as also the Gunners, we have a fair bit of experience in fighting in high altitude areas and how to sustain ourselves, and those experiences have come in very handy. And of course, the world knows that we have the experience of the Kargil operations. Of course, a lot has happened after that. We've gone through our procedures, we've polished them, refined them, and taken some very good lessons which have come in very useful over the last 1 year, whether it is sustenance of troops or it is the maintenance of equipment in those challenging weather conditions.
Since you spoke about the lessons that were learned, especially in high altitude, we are one of the very few countries which, we had Siachen, we had Kargil, we've had the artillery operating in at such heights. What were the key lessons that we learned from the past which actually helped us in Ladakh and in Galwan?
The artillery relies mainly on its guns. If you were to further break it down, is the guns, the motors, the rockets, and of course we have also got the missiles in our inventory. Kargil taught us a lot of lessons. I spoke about procedures. One of the key procedures that we evolved in Op Vijay, that is the Kargil operations, is the ability to fire a direct indirect firing mode. Earlier there were only two methods of firing, that is the direct firing or the indirect firing. But DIDF, or direct indirect firing mode, is something which evolved during the Kargil operations. Mountains pose a lot of challenges to gunners because of the slope effect of the target area, because of the crest clearance problems. You need only those guns which are capable of firing at higher angles of elevation. So all these issues do get somehow taken care of when we deploy howitzers and the guns that are there on our inventory to take on the challenges. But one very important thing in this is the sustenance, and what I said was that you need a lot of logistical backup to maintain not only guns but a lot of other high-tech equipment that we have in our inventory, whether it is the surveillance radars or whether we have the weapon locating radars, and of course we also have the rocket systems like the Grad BM-21 or the Pinakas. So they need to be sustained in those harsh climatic conditions, and these are some of the lessons over the years, not only during Kargil operations but after that, since gunners have been operating in those higher altitudes. So we took forward those lessons and made sure that we were balanced on ground when the time came to go and deploy there.
Now, over the last 18 months, we've had weapons deployed at high altitude through the winter months as well. What have been the challenges with the equipment? Because for the lay person, we cannot even fathom what it's like to endure those sub-zero temperatures. For the human body, and then to have to work equipment, weapons at that temperature and at that altitude. What were the challenges that you faced there, and how did you cope with them?
The systems, whether they are hydraulically operated or they are electronically operated, not all of our systems were designed, are designed to operate in such extremes of temperatures. So modifications had to be carried out, and special grades of oils and lubricants had to be catered for. So that the equipment is able to function very, very optimally, even in freezing temperature conditions.
But you know, we always keep thinking of weapons, but weapons alone are worth nothing unless you have the men behind those weapons. Again, talking about those conditions which we can only imagine, how do you keep them going? How do you keep them motivated, trained to operate the weapon, and then to also deal with the elements?
Definitely, very good question. The man behind the machine is equally important, if not more. So the man who sits on that machine and operates it, he has to have the mental toughness to fire day in and day out if the requirement is so, as also to bear the vagaries of the weather, the climatic conditions, the terrain conditions, and keep his level of motivations at a higher level. This is a challenge for all commanders who operate there, to make sure that the boys, somebody is operating a gun, or somebody is operating a radio set, or somebody is working out the technical data, or somebody is doing surveillance. They are all away from their homes, the comfort of their homes, away from their families over extended, prolonged periods. So it's a challenge to keep the man motivated. To be ready to deliver when the time comes. So when actual operations take place, things move pretty fast. But when you have to maintain your vigil day in and day out, and expecting anything to happen anytime, it's a challenge. So we have our systems in our units where people are taken care of. We have buddy systems where people talk about their issues, their personal issues with their friends, with their senior commanders, and senior commanders with their higher commanders. And we have a very good system of logistical maintenance, so the men are reasonably assured that when the time comes, they will not have to look over their shoulders, and everything will flow right forward up to them.
Especially in a situation that was very eyeball to eyeball for quite a while in Ladakh. How do you keep nerves from getting frayed and the motivation to remain high?
Yeah, again, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but we are trained to do that. We are trained to do that. Prolonged periods of maintaining your higher levels of motivation, and this is where the mental strength, the faith in your equipment, the pride in your regiment, that is what comes foremost to your mind, that I am here to perform a task, and come the opportunity, I will have to deliver, so I better remain prepared and I keep my equipment, keep the powder dry, and be ready to take on whatever is thrown at me.
So we're also looking at enhancing our artillery capability when it comes to especially high altitude. Where are we on that?
We have made a lot of progress. I would say that the bulk of our inventory at this point of time, we all know, is the Indian field gun and the light field gun, that is the LFG. We also have the Bofors on our inventory, and of course the mediumization of the regiment of artillery is a work in progress, and the mediumization actually is the essence of our modernization. So we have various projects, schemes going through where the older lot of equipment which has done good service to us for all these years, of course needs now to be replaced by a fresher or a newer lot of equipment which is more technical, and so that we achieve faster rates of fire, and we are able to compute vast sums of data in a very short time.
Which brings me to the K9. We saw pictures of it being put through trials. Are you satisfied with that?
Regarding K9, I would say that we all know we procured 100 guns, and they all have been delivered. This system was primarily to be employed in the deserts. However, the need came, and we wanted to trial evaluate whether this system can perform in the conditions, the terrain conditions, and the weather conditions as obtaining in the high altitude areas. So trials are on, and I'm sure we'll be able to take a call after that as to if required, if any modifications are required to be done, so that this equipment, if need be, can be inducted, and then it can perform optimally in those conditions.
But so far, what is your assessment? Is it performing satisfactorily in higher altitudes, since you said that it's actually meant for the desert?
Yeah, the trials that are going on, they are currently in progress, and very soon the trial reports will be available to us, and that is the time we'll be able to make a comment on that.
What about other guns? What more is in the offing when it comes to induction? We already spoke about the K9. What else?
In addition to the K9, this is the tracked self-propelled gun that we just talked about. We've also inducted ultralight howitzers, which have been procured from abroad and being assembled in India by an Indian company. About at this point of time, the 4th regiment of the ultralight howitzers is in the process of being operationalized. So 3 have already been, the 4th is on. In all, we plan to procure, the figures is already out, it's about 145 guns. We plan to equip 7 regiments and 1 battery with this equipment. Primarily, this equipment is meant for the eastern borders because it allows you, being a very, very light gun, it allows you a quick, rapid mobilization and switching from one valley to the other. So that is where the ultralight howitzers are. Of course, the mainstay of the regiment of artillery will always be the towed gun system, and in the towed gun system, some of the developments have already gone ahead. Is that we are placing the 155 barrel on a 130 gun basic structure, that is the Sharan project, which is being executed by the Ordnance Factory Board, and about 15 regiments will be equipped with this equipment. Of course, the Dhanush project is on the Ordnance Factory. Jabalpur is working towards it. Some development guns have already been made. However, there are some teething issues with the development of the gun. I'm sure the people at the ordnance factories, I have recently had a meeting with them, and they are working towards it, and those issues I feel can be resolved once we apply ourselves to them. So once that happens, that equipment is also one of those which is planned to be on the inventory of the Regiment of Artillery. Of course, the mainstay is the towed gun system. So we need a gun, a towed gun, which is robust, reliable, which will be able to operate in all kinds of conditions, and which will be able to mobilize in various terrains, and that will be the backbone. So if we look at this and then we look at it in the future, we are also looking at mounted gun systems. The request for information is already out, and we are at this point of time waiting for responses from the indigenous defense industry as to what are the kinds of capability they can offer in this particular segment.
Since you spoke of the indigenous defense industry, there has been a lot of stress, especially in the last two budgets, on Make in India. But realistically, on the ground, how is this project faring when it comes to defense? Make in India defense and artillery. How is the project faring?
If I were to say that the modernization of the Regiment of Artillery actually is premised on the indigenization. Bulk of our, or 80 to 90% of our projects are being executed through the indigenous defense industry. The Dhanush project we just mentioned, it is with the Ordnance Factory Board. The Sharang project, also with the Ordnance Factory Board. The ultralight howitzers, though some kind of semi-knockdown kits have come from the original equipment manufacturer, but they are being assembled, integrated and tested in our country. And of course, then there is some development on the towed gun system, which the DRDO, the ARD is doing, and they've got their two development partners. And recently we had the summer firing trials of those equipment. So so much so for the gun systems. And if I just switch over to the rockets, the Pinaka system, which was developed, which is developed by the DRDO, the ARDE, and it gives us a tremendous capability. Not only that, now we are looking at more variety of ammunition to be fired from this particular rocket launcher. So we are developing extended range ammunition, which will give us higher ranges. So the DRDO, as on date, claims that the guided extended range ammunition which they are developing for the Pinaka weapon system will be able to give us ranges around 75 kilometers. So that is almost a jump from the present range of Pinaka, which is about 37.5 kilometers. And they are also developing some kind of a variety of ammunition, area denial munitions, which they are presently working on. And I'm sure they will soon be successful in this kind of.
So what does that mean, area denial munitions?
These are munitions which are fired from the rocket, but then either they go and in the target area they function as anti-personnel mines or as anti-tank mines. So a particular area you can saturate with this kind of munitions. So you are ruling out the possibility of mechanized forces coming into that area. So this is not the only thing. The weapon locating radar, the Swati, which we have procured in big numbers, is also ex-Bharat Electronics. So I go back to my original statement that the modernization of Regiment of Artillery is premised on indigenization or indigenous solutions to the challenges that are being faced. There is more to it, but we can leave it at this point.
But to be honest, there's a lot of cynicism also. There are a lot of projected acquisitions, what can happen through indigenization, etc. But what has been delivered? Because critics say that in principle, Make in India sounds very good, but what is achieved at the end of the day?
I take the example of Pinaka. 4 regiments already equipped with this system, and a contract for ground support equipment for 6 more regiments already signed. So this equipment will start flowing in maybe from next year onwards. So at the end of another 4 years, we will have 10 regiments of Pinaka weapon system, which is purely indigenous. Earlier we had imported the weapon locating radar, which is the ANTPQ-37, which was from the US. But today we have procured the Swati, and trials are on for the Swati, which can operate in higher altitudes. So this is a success story. We are looking at long-range surveillance cameras, which are being looked upon by the indigenous defense industry. The towed gun systems I just mentioned to you, the Ordnance Factory, the DRDO is working on the ATAGS, that is the ATAGs. So in the case of artillery, I don't think so. It is a case of that there is nothing much to show. I think the products or the equipment that has rolled out is there to speak for itself.
Finally, I want to ask you, in the foreseeable future, do you think there will be the possibility of India actually being an exporter, or that's too much of a pipe dream? We're just getting started.
I'm an optimist, and you need to have pipe dreams, because once you have pipe dreams, I think you can make all efforts to realize them. So once our defense industry, there is a suitable ecosystem. We have a set of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, and the defense corridors that are coming up, once they take their final shape, I have no doubt the kind of scientific know-how that we have in our country, the R&D facilities that are coming up, there will be a time when our products will be of global standards. Some of our products are already of global standards, but when I say more and more of our products developed by the India's defense manufacturers will be of global standards, and then only sky is the limit, and we will be able to export to those countries who would be interested. But this is a decision which the government of the day will take.
Of course, but it always helps to end on an optimistic note. Thank you very much, sir, for having spoken to us, and a very happy Gunners Day again to you.
Thank you very much. Happy Gunners Day.